folks. Dave from Opposing the Matrix here. How the heck are you? I'm doing pretty good myself. Thank you. Okay, just get these things put in here. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice. It's raining here in Oregon, folks. Newsflash, raining in Oregon. Which it does 364.5 days of the year, seems like. Just kidding. Hey, it's the 13th of November already, 2025. We're going to be getting into December and January pretty soon. And for those of you who buy presents for Christmas for your loved ones, you are going to be in debt in about a month and a half. Not even a month. Yeah, about a month and a half. What the heck? So, anyway, I don't think Yahweh ever meant it for it to be that way, but hey, whatever. Okay, it looks like we're up and running everything. I'm not going on Instagram anymore, folks. I have too much problems with Instagram. So I'm nixing Instagram, but we are live on Twitch right now. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Trovo, BitChute, Telegram, and Facebook. And boy, do I look nice on Facebook. Just kidding. So I'm going to break from the norm, folks. We had that whole series of 20 that I put together and I wanted to do, and I still will do. But once in a while, I'm going to mix it up, and this is going to be one of those once in a whiles. I'm going to mix it up. And today we're going to talk about a group of people that you may not have been aware of. Maybe you have been. I don't know. If you're good researchers, I guess maybe you are. But, I'm a good researcher, and I just found out about them like 3 years ago. I mean, really found out about them. I knew the name and everything else, but I was negligent and didn't do my studying. Okay, but I did it, and I found a lot of neat stuff. These people are called the Anak. Excuse me. I'm okay. The Anakim, Anakim. In Hebrew, and probably the other languages that were spoken in that region, if there is a singular, like, let's just say Anak, okay? He was the father of the Anakim, okay? Anakim. And so there's a plural there, okay? He fathered a lot of children, okay? And those children, because they're plural, they're Anakim, okay? Same can be said for kings. The word in Hebrew is melech, but if you have a plural, like you're talking about a group of kings, it's melachim, okay? Same with prophet, it's nevi. If it's a group of prophets, it's neviim, okay? All right, three. I think three is okay. We don't need to go on anymore with that. One was probably enough, but what the heck? Okay, so I wanted to study these people, because they're mysterious. They really are. Not as mysterious as Melchizedek, of course, but they all of a sudden they pop onto the scene. They're mentioned a little bit in Scripture, and then bam, that's it. And so why is that? So I wanted to look that up. Now we know that when the Israelites went into the Promised Land, after getting there and then not wanting to go in, and Yahweh saying, hey, I was going to be with you, but since you didn't trust me, you guys are going to have to wait for 40 years. Got him. There's these little gnats flying around here, folks. They drive me crazy, and I think I just obliterated by the last one. Anyway, so, yeah, they kind of rebelled because the spies came back. Two of them said, Joshua and Caleb came back, and they said, hey, no problem, man. We can go in there. We can just take them out. No problem. Yeah, they're big. They're giants and everything else. But, we got Yahweh on our side, so let's go. Well, the other 10 said, no, wait a minute. It's not that easy because we look like grasshoppers compared to them. And I think they saw us as grasshoppers. And that they're a formidable foe to go up against. And I don't know, And so Yahweh said, well, when they said that, it incited the rest of the people to say, no, I don't think I want to go in. We should go in there right now. Well, anyway, so Yahweh said, okay, well, fine, you won't go in there right now, but you're not going to go in there for 40 more years either. Because this whole generation from a certain age up that was rebellious against me, they have to die off before I let the children go in. Everybody did too, except for Joshua and Caleb. And they were older when they led the armies of Israel into battle with the all the people of Canaan. But they were full of vim and vigor because Yahweh preserved them. So that's awesome. Nice to know he could do that. And some of us that are older, we kind of pray that he would do that, right? I need some preservation. I really do. How about you guys? You need some preservation? I think so too. So, except if you're young and you're watching this show, you've got enough preservation. Let us have a little bit of the pie, okay? All right. So, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, okay? Interesting things going on around the world, and especially around the United States. Trump has had more headaches with liberal judges who are coming against everything he's trying to do, but he's not going down this time, man. He's going to fight, and he's been winning everything. So he takes it right to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, or people, most of them anyway, on the Supreme Court, I'd say maybe about 7 out of 10, or 7 out of 9, 6 out of 9, I would say better. Have common sense, and they've been fighting in favor of what Trump's arguing for. And so it's just a waste of time, but it sets precedents. So instead of it being kind of a gray area to begin with, these people that come against Trump with this, they make a big deal out of it. He takes it to court, and then it becomes precedent. So if it ever comes up again, there's not going to be an argument about it. The Supreme Court said it, and that's it. So we got that going on, and it looks like Portland has kind of calmed down with the riots and everything, so that's good. I had lunch with a fellow yesterday that lives in Portland. He and his mother is visiting from somewhere in the Midwest. And we talked, and I said, what's it like there? And he goes, well, it's not good. He says, there's problems everywhere you go in Portland. And I said, yeah, I know. And I said, because of the Antifa and stuff. He goes, that's what it is. But anyway, but that seems to be calming down. I think sending in the National Guard and the Marines was a good idea. And I hope it happens more often in all these cities. Put down this stuff before it even gets any worse, or it even has a chance to become worse, right? The people like Antifa and their ilk, they don't respect anything but power. Okay, and you can walk up to them and I'll just say the good Christian way and say, oh, brother, are you really going to do this? It's not really good to do because you're going to be hurting this person and that person. And they're going to look at you and spit on you and say, tough. They don't care, okay? So there's certain personalities in this world that you have to deal hard with, okay? There's other ones that you could talk to them and bam, they just turn right over and everything's good. But people like Antifa, all the other communist efforts that are out there trying to ruin our country, countries around the world that are governed by people like that, you can't talk to them. They just don't. Well, they listen, but they don't listen to the point of doing something to help make things a little more amiable between us and them and stuff. So I don't know. A lot of people are kind of a little upset about with him doing what he's doing, but I'm like, hey, I don't think he's doing hard enough. Okay. Anyway, that's where I stand on that, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, let's see what else. I don't know, there's so many things going on. It looks like more and more of Canada wants to even become part of the United States. Either that or just their own country. It started with Alberta, and then it went from Alberta to Saskatchewan, and then it went from there to Manitoba. And Manitoba's still kind of hanging in the wings there, waiting to see what happens. And then it went to British Columbia, and not so much the city part of British Columbia, but the outside, the country folk, they all want to get out of there too. And now Yukon has joined in on that. And I'm going to mess this name up, but there's a native land up there called Navuet. I think that's how it's pronounced. And they want out too. They've already matter of fact, they're ahead of British Columbia. No, ahead of Alberta when it comes to paperwork. All the drafting and everything has to be done. They're way ahead of Alberta. So they went out really bad. And so, hey, you get Northwest Territories, man. That's going to be one heck of a land grab. I shouldn't say it like that. It makes it sound we're stealing. But it makes one heck of a. The United States would probably be twice as big as it is right now. So, yeah, it's really interesting. And, I like Canada. I like the Canadians. They're nice people. And I don't think that they should be treated like they're treated by the neo-communist that's running that place. And my goodness, yeah, Justin Trudeau, who I swear is the bastard child of Castro, Fidel Castro. They just look too much alike. I'm sorry. There's no mistaking that. And the people that try to refute it, I don't know. You haven't looked hard enough, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, yeah. So the neo-fascist, the communist, you name it, you pick a word, okay? They've ruined Canada. They pretty well ruined it, and it'll be a miracle if anything happens. But anyway, so the east coast of Canada, along with Ontario, not so much Quebec, but the east coast of Ontario, they're kind of banded together. They were kind of like the welfare recipients of the Canadian governments. See, what was happening, folks, is Alberta and Saskatchewan are rich provinces, because Alberta has tons of oil underneath it, tons and tons and tons, and they've not been allowed to pump it out of the ground because of the communists that are running Canada. And the province of Saskatchewan, they have the potash there, and that's a very important mineral when it comes to fertilizing farmlands and stuff like that. But they also have uranium and several other things up there that are very important in there, so they're pretty well off to do too. And so they have this thing up there that's called, I can't remember what the name of it, but it's welfare on the grand scale. Okay, so if you're a province and you make a lot of money, you have to donate into this general fund. A certain time of the year, I don't know when it is. It's all divvied up and it's given to different provinces. Except none of it's really given back to you. Okay, so, and I'm talking about if you live in Saskatchewan or Alberta. So basically, you're supporting all the people that can't support themselves. What does that sound like? Sounds like the liberal Great Society that Johnson set up about back in the 60s, and is still running and still ruining. Funny how running and ruining are kind of almost spelled the same, and nowadays they almost mean the same. So anyway, Canada, there's certain provinces that want out, and I hope and pray that they get what they're asking for. And I hope and pray that they join us here in the States, and we become one big happy people. The good thing about, especially Alberta and Saskatchewan, folks, is that those people are hard workers. They're very hard workers, and that's what we need. We've got enough of the New York and the California and Illinois, excuse me, the liberals that are in those states that basically run those states. We've got enough of that. Okay, that's something that after a while is just going to run out anyways. It's going to expire. But we need more of the hardworking people, and they have a lot of the same values. They have good Christian values, and this country, we still have a lot of people that have those values, and but we're not allowed to practice them or to celebrate them, for that matter, because we are being selfish, or you name it. You think of the word racist is another big one. Oh yeah, I swear you just, that word is thrown away way too much, and especially for things that it doesn't even apply to. Anyway. See how I go off on things, folks, but maybe that's good that I went off on that. Maybe somebody needed to hear that, or somebody was thinking about it, and you feel, if you were, and you feel kind of like, okay, well, good. There's other people thinking about it too, so I feel better. All right, so I'm trying to get my thoughts here, folks. Hold on a sec. All right, so after the flood, let's go back real quick with that. Again, with this thing about Anak, they're trying to make it sound like somebody from the antediluvian world survived, and because of that, they started the race back up, or the Nephilim, or things like that. Not even thinking that maybe it's a second angelic incursion that caused it, right? Why not? But they'll go through all these weird things. One of them, what is that? There's an entrance into the Hollow Earth down in Antarctica, and also in the north somewhere. there's an entrance in each place, and the Nephilim found out about it, and they hid down there until the flood was over. Well, how the heck did they know the flood was going to happen? I thought Noah was the only one that knew about that. Yeah, he might have preached it, but did he really? We don't know. So, another one was who was it? One of the Nephilim clung to the side of Noah's Ark. For 150 days, he clung to the side of Noah's Ark. No food, no water, because the water had been tainted. Man, I can imagine what that water was like after all the turbulence and all the dirt and stones and everything else that went into that water. For a while there, I would say probably maybe for the first 100 years, that was pretty nasty water until it all filtered down and settled down on the bottom. But yeah, it's the way some people think. It's totally amazing. It really is. But anyway, no, all the Nephilim died, and it died before the flood, folks. It says in Enoch, and man, it's funny how people read Enoch and they take everything but that one little thing, and it's gospel to them, I would say, but no, they died in the flood, and I'm like, well, no, because they were deep in their dirt before the flood happened. So it's, I don't know, some people are just, I don't know. So, folks, do you ever get tired of putting up with that crap? With ignorance and arrogance and everything else, and you're supposed to do the nice thing and just, you got to forgive them, you got to let it go, and I'm like, if I hear that one more time. Anyway, so no, the Anakim that came from Anak, and then previously his father's name was Arba. No, they were clear and distinct, a new kind of monster, a new kind of race. Yes, you could consider them Nephilim for sure, but they were different. Okay, they were just different. Kind of like a kinder, I'm going to say kinder and gentler, more refined. No, that's not a good word either. Just different type of Nephilim. Okay, and matter of fact, I don't think they even referred to themselves as Nephilim. If they referred to themselves as anything, they just referred to themselves as Anakim. Or Anakim. Okay. So, Anak and Anakim are ancient biblical figures associated with giant races, okay, in the Old Testament. I hate that word. They make it sound like it's expired. The Old Testament's expired, and you're just supposed to read the New. No. Chuck Missler used to say that the Old Testament is the New Testament concealed, and the New Testament is the Old Testament revealed. And I think that is an excellent way to put it. I really do. And so let's, I don't know, there's times, I call it the Tanakh, because that's what it is. The Tanakh is the culmination of the prophets, the writings, and the Torah. All three of those comprise the Tanakh, and just think of from Genesis 1 to in the Protestant Bible, Malachi, the first prophet to the Italians, I would say. But yeah, Malachi was so go from Genesis to Malachi and just think that's the Tanakh. Okay. Now there's some other books that were in there too, but they were found to be not canon, and that's debatable. Okay. So anyway, so they let's see, with giant races in the Old Testament, specifically tied to the Nephilim tradition. Okay, the Nephilim tradition was that fallen angels came down and had a sexual union with human females and produced these hideous creatures. Now, there are people running around, oh no, that can't happen. The angels didn't have the well, I don't want to say equipment, but maybe not the way, the carrier for the sperm. Okay, that they come up with all this stuff, but no, angels have bodies. Okay, and however they did it. Okay, but it definitely Yahweh said it was because of the union between them and the human females, and it's talking about sexual union. And at first, I think it might have been forced. They were taken against their will, but I think after a while, more of a seduction happened, and that's the way that they were able to get to the human females. But Still, after that, I think it was still not totally willfully done by the human women. But anyway, all right. Now let's get into this this Anunnaki stuff, okay? That Zechariah Stitchin came up with a number of years ago. He's a very, very fanciful writer. He really is. And he's good at putting things together, and he's really good at twisting history too. So there are a bunch of people, of course, that are running around going, "Oh yeah, well the Anunnaki and the pardon me, and the Anakim are the same thing." No, there's a bunch of differences. And I'll tell you what, if we get through this, let's just say in an hour and 20 minutes, and we have enough time, I put together some stuff that proves that both of them are different, okay, in many ways, and we'll look at that, okay. And if you've ever had an argument with somebody about it, maybe they'll help you the next time, or help you to ease your mind about being right and them being wrong, okay. All right. So there may be a connection, very, very slim, if any. Now, I'm going to say there isn't a connection. Okay, when I wrote this, I hadn't done the studying that I've done in the meantime, and so the stories between the Anunnaki and the Anakim are somewhat the same, but not exactly. The roots of the two words are totally different. They come from different meanings, different root words and stuff like that. So there's not really a lot of proof that shows that one was the one and the other one was the other. Okay. So it's, for instance, it's said in the story of the Anunnaki that an advanced race of beings came to Earth, and through genetic manipulation they created mankind. I'll go as far as saying that it was because of sexual union. So that's how they tried to tie in the Nephilim of the biblical lore with the stuff about the Anunnaki. It says that they used that to create humankind, or Homo sapiens. Scripture says that Yahweh created mankind by forming him from the dust of the earth. And then he breathed life into him, and that word means that he breathed his spirit into him and brought him to life. No other animal did he do that to in Scripture, just mankind. Shows you how special mankind is to him, okay? And he made us in his image too, which no one can totally imagine what that would be like, but just think about if you were to think about creating a race of people, what that would be. So made in his thoughts and the way he wanted to make it, the way he thought that we should be, and everything like that. That's how we came to be. He made us into what he envisioned, and then totally brought us to life. And okay, let's see. So again, it's the secular challenging godly things. Okay, that's basically what it is. Now you could say, well, the Sumerian, that was from their religion. Well, yeah, it was from their religion too, but enough secular thought has been injected in it to say that it is a secular thought also. Okay, especially when you start talking about ancient astronauts and everything else. It's just it's too much. Okay. If the story about the Anunnaki is in any way the Sumerian account of the biblical truth, it would be no more different than modern man's citing evolution theory to challenge creationism, right? It'd be exactly the same as that, actually. Again, the secular challenging the godly account. Okay, and man, that happens all the time anymore, So here's the breakdown of the Anakim. Now, you got to ask a question. Now, were the Amorites, and you'll see why I'm asking this, were the Amorites implicit in bringing the Anakim to Canaan? Who said Canada? That's weird. Okay, so, and I've talked about this many, many times on this radio show, about the dream and vision that Abraham had, and Yahweh started a covenant with him in this dream and vision. So he gave Abraham advanced knowledge of the things that would happen in Canaan in the years to come, but that would involve his offspring. Okay, and so things are bad already in Canaan. Okay, when you think about it altogether, it's they were definitely a godless society. I mean, where Christianity is concerned, or Judaism is concerned, they were totally polytheistic and believed in bowing and kissing gods and everything else. So when Abram was being shown that dream and vision, he was told by Yahweh that the children of Israel, or his descendants, Abram's descendants, because Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, or Jacob. This all went down when Jacob was alive. Okay, actually when he was a very old man, just before he died. So things were going to get worse. They gave him a prophecy that the children of Abram would be slaves in Egypt now he didn't exactly say Egypt. He said in a land where they do not know, let's see, in Egypt for about 400 years, or 4 generations, and that's why I know when Yahweh talks about generations, that it's probably for around 100 years per generation. And so all this stuff about Israel becoming a nation in 1947, and a generation is 70 years roughly, or something like that. And that happened. All this stuff that's supposed to come down to Revelation, supposedly happened to start within that 70-year period is bupkis, because he says right here 400 years is a generation. Okay, and he says 4 generations when he's talking to Abram about this. 4 generations and 400 years, he says both of them. Okay, so they wouldn't be able to come back to Canaan until that happened. Okay, now we can only assume that Yahweh knew that the Amorites would somehow usher in the coming of the Anakim to the land of Canaan. Yahweh knew that Abram's descendants would be the ones that would wipe out the Amorites when they and the Anakim. Okay, of course, he knows from the end, from beginning, and the beginning from the end. He's outside of our reality, which means that he's all around. He's the front, the back, the sides, the top, the bottom, the whole 9 yards. So he can know what's going to happen. He's seen the end. He's seen when Yeshua comes back and destroys all the armies of the earth. He's seen all this stuff, which I think would be glorious. But I don't know if my human heart can handle it, or anybody's human heart for that matter. So let's see. If we go to where the heck was it? Genesis chapter 15. That's where the vision where Abraham is given the covenant by Yahweh, and Yahweh makes pledges and says that his descendants will be like the sand of the sea, the dust of the earth, or the stars of heaven. He says, if you can count any of those, you'll be able to count your descendants. Which he was saying, don't even try. Because the minute you think you counted all the stars, you're going to find another cluster or another galaxy, and you have to start. Well, you're going to have to add that, and it's just too much. So he says, and starting in verse 13, he says, and he said unto Abram, know for sure of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. Man, what a long time to be in slavery. And also the nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards they shall come out with great substance. And that was interesting because remember when the Israelites, or Israel, was told to get out of Egypt finally by the Pharaoh, get out of here, before he changed his mind, of course. But you had the people giving the Israelites jewelry and everything else, and basically paying them off to get out of there so that all the plagues would stop. And well, if anybody wanted me to pay me to get out of here, especially during that time, it would have been no questions asked. Let's see. Come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. In other words, he's going to die and not see this, of course. But he'll be able to enjoy peace in his death and evermore after that. And he says, thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation, they shall come out hither again. Ready for this? For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. The the Amorites. Okay, and that was a group that was there. I think the Amorites were children of, actually, grandchildren, whatever, of Ham, one of Noah's sons. And so the iniquity, their iniquity. In other words, they were pretty bad then, but by the time the Israelites are going to go, they're going to be really bad, really, really, really bad. And we don't know for sure what that'll entail, but just knowing that all the giant races, the Rephaim, the Zumzim, and all the others, the Anakim, brawling the land at that time. You know, that's pretty serious. You know, that's a major infestation of bad folks, you know, so to speak, and they needed an exterminator to come in there and wipe them out, and that's what the Israelites were. That's what they were asked to do or told to do when they go in, and they were quite successful actually, except for some of the Anakim and others, the Nephilim and stuff. They escaped to Palestine, where I'm trying to think here. I don't want to say Palestinians, but the Philistines, that's where they went. Yeah, they went to the land of the Philistines. Gaza, it mentions Gaza, isn't that interesting? And what is it? Gath, and there's another one that starts with G, and I can't remember it right now. But anyway, so that's where they went. So, and after a while, the Phoenicians and the Israelites stopped fighting each other, for the most part anyway, and so I'm assuming that some of the giants that lived at that time were allowed to progress and keep doing what they were doing. So it's a shame too, because had the Israelites gone in 40 years earlier, they probably would have wiped them out. But I don't know. People, see how your actions can affect what Yahweh wants to do. You know. But at the same time, Yahweh knew that you wanted to do that, and so he made a plan B. But is it really a plan B? Because if he knew you were going to do it, that's actually still plan A. But original plan A is kind of erased. It's, again, when you start talking about time not being a relative factor in different things, things start getting different, and it's really hard to explain. Okay, so let's ask the question: who was Anak? Okay. So Anak, in the Hebrews, it's pronounced Anak, and he was the forefather or patriarch of a race of giants known as Anakim. He was a descendant of Arba, that was his father, who was called the greatest man among the Anakim. And that's you can find that said in Joshua chapter 14, verse 15. Okay, now the name Anak means neck or long-necked, which could refer to their stature, tall, imposing, and powerful. Okay, but you know, I had a thought when I was doing this, because if you ever seen the aliens in that current, or actually they're fallen angels that are dressing themselves or coming or acting like aliens or extraterrestrials, and the Greys have really long necks, and I was wondering if that maybe had something to do with what we're talking about, but I don't know. So. Just something to ponder, and maybe someday it'll come up, and I'll be able to either refute the idea or accept it and say, yeah, I knew that a long time ago. Okay, now who were the Anakim? The Anakim, again in Hebrew it's pronounced Anakim, were a tribe or clan of giants descended from Anak. Now I know it sounds like we're going, it's circular reasoning here, but I don't know, it all works together. Run down, shaken together, and flowing over. You know, it's living primarily in the region of Hebron. Now, back then, Hebron didn't have that name. I think Joshua or Caleb changed the name of Hebron because it used to be called Kiriath Arba, and the Arba was for the father of the Anakim. Okay, the grandfather of the Anakim. Kiriath Arba, and then Arba was Anak's father. So anyway, they changed it right away when they took it over, and it was a brutal battle. So that was in the hill country of Canaan. Now, the Anakim were known for their immense size and strength, inspiring fear among the Israelites, and we talked about that. How A lot of them didn't want to go in. They were afraid, and I can't say I blame them, you know. Let's see. So they were known for their immense size and strength and inspiring fear among the Israelites, all right? So let's look at some biblical references, okay? Numbers 13, verses 28 and 33. It said, when the Israelite spies scouted Canaan, they said, we saw the Anakim there, and they were like grasshoppers in our sight, in our own sight. They even compared them to the Nephilim, suggesting a bloodline or a spiritual link to the Nephilim. That's interesting, too. Okay. So Deuteronomy 9:2 says, and the Anakim were described as great tall people, whom you know and whom you have heard it said, who can stand before the sons of Anak? It's pretty powerful. Very powerful. Joshua 11, verses 21 through 22. Joshua eventually drove out most of the Anakim from the land, though some survived in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. There's the third one, Ashdod. And all those were Philistine territories. And the parallels between the Philistines and the Palestinians of our common day are pretty interesting. It's, the word Palestine comes from the Romans. After the second rebellion by the Jews in, was it 132 or something like that? I can't remember the exact date. But anyway, the Romans said, okay, that's it. And they got every Jewish person out of Israel, except there were a few that remained. But for the most part, they were all taken out and scattered among all the nations, particularly in Europe and southwest and south and northwest Asia. Okay, so let's look at historical and theological context here. Now, what about the connection to the Nephilim? Okay, the Anakim are often thought to be descendants of the Nephilim, the giants born from the union of the sons of God and the daughters of men. Well, I'm going to ask a question, folks. Why can't we just say that maybe the angels came down a second time and did what they did the first time? Okay, that would be the ultimate defiance of Yahweh, because Yahweh, the destruction of the earth wasn't due in part, not totally, but in part by what the Nephilim did. They taught humans technology that you shouldn't know, and basically led them astray philosophically, spiritually, any way you can think of. So the mankind was wicked, yes, but the wickedness came from what he was taught from the Nephilim, or from the sons of God, the fallen angels. Okay. So the Nephilim, the giants born from the union of the sons of God and the daughters of men. That's Genesis 6:4. The spies statement in Numbers 13:33, the sons of Anak, which come from the Nephilim, implies a continuation of that ancient hybrid lineage after the flood. Later descendants, giants like Goliath of Gath. Man, it'd be a hard one to say 5 times fast. 1 Samuel 17 are believed to be part of the same genetic or tribal line as the Anakim who survived in Philistia. So anyway, I didn't finish, and that's why the Romans, they started calling the area Philistia because they knew that in the ancient days the Jews and the Philistines fought all the time, and there was no love between either one of them, maybe a vast hatred, and the Romans knew that, so they changed the name of Israel, the land of Israel, to Palestine, or Philistia, and that's where we get Palestine from. So, and it's still in that area, is a problem child for just about the whole world now. So anyway, so let's do a little summary here. I've made a table. You can't see it, but I'll try to keep it to as much as I can. So the one column is category, and the other one is Anak or Anakim. So the meaning of the name means long-necked or giant. The ancestry, descendants of Arba, a Canaanite lineage. And if you look back farther, it comes more Ham, Noah's son. Anyway, physical traits: very tall, mighty, and fearsome. Homeland: Hebron and the hill country of Canaan. Bible link, possibly descendants of the Nephilim, and survivors after the conquest. They went to Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod, which were Philistine cities. So this is a comprehensive historical and biblical, extra biblical profile of the Anak and the Anakim. See, in depth. I like going in depth. Pulling from scripture, apocrypha, Jewish tradition, and early historians. You're getting all the meat and potatoes, folks. All of them. Okay. That we can possibly find about these mysterious people. So the biblical record: Anak, the patriarch of Anakim, again means long-necked or necked or long-necked and or giant. The parentage: the Bible does not name Anak's father directly, but his ancestor was Arba, described as the greatest man among the Anakim. But there's more proof that Arba was the father, if you go into it deep enough. Okay, now he had children. I'm going to spell the names: Ahiman, or Ahiman, Ahiman, Shishai, which is spelled Sheshai, and Talmai, which is spelled Talmai, the three formidable sons encountered by the Israelite spies in Hebron. And that was found in Numbers 13:22. All right, what about the Anakim tribe? The Anakim were a race of giants living in the southern hill country of Canaan, especially Hebron, Debir, and Anab, or Anab. They were renowned for their size, strength, and warrior nature, and they terrified the Israelite spies. And Moses described them as a great and tall people, and says that they were considered invincible. That's found in Deuteronomy 9:2. Okay, the connection with the Nephilim. The Israelite spies explicitly said, "And we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come of the Nephilim," and that was found in Numbers 13:33. Interesting number. This phrase is pivotal. It links the Anakim to the ancient Nephilim who existed before the flood, Genesis 6:4. But it says, if you go to Genesis and read it, it says, "And there were Nephilim in the earth at those times and after." So those times were before the flood, and after means after the flood. Okay? I mean, it can't be more plain. Let's see. So this connection raises as a question: if the flood wiped out the Nephilim, how did the Anakim exist afterwards? Now this is just speculation, things I looked up. Okay. So ancient Jewish commentary and apocryphal texts offer answers. You ready for this? All right. So we got the title here: Extra Biblical and Apocryphal Sources. Number 1, the Book of Jubilees, 2nd century BCE. Let's just say BC. I believe it's saying before the Christ and instead of before the Common Era. Okay, in the Jubilees, chapter 7, verses 21 through 25 describes how, after the flood, evil spirits descended from the spirits of the Nephilim dead and continued to corrupt mankind. There's some truth in that, okay? But what happened was, according to Enoch, First Enoch, chapter 6 or 7, I can't remember, Yahweh, as a kind of a punishment to the fallen angels, had the Nephilim set the sword against each other. They all killed each other by the sword, and this was done as a punishment to the sons of God, or the fallen angels. One of the penalties that they paid, they had to watch their own sons die. Okay. Let's see. Okay, it implies that some post-flood Nephilim bloodlines survived through Ham's lineage, possibly via Canaan, which would explain why the Anakim appear among the Canaanite tribes. That makes a lot of sense, because all those tribes were descended from Ham. Remember, there were 3 sons of Noah: Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Okay, the Canaanites, particularly the Anakim and the Rephaim, were seen as remnants of the pre-flood hybrid races. But if the angels did it afterwards, then they're not really They're not really remnants of the pre-flood, because it would be after the flood that it happened. But and for some reason, it's a lot of these references left that out, and I don't understand that. Okay, the Book of Enoch. Okay, First Enoch 6 through 15, chapter 6 through chapters 15, gives detailed accounts of the Watchers, or the fallen angels, who mated with human women, producing giant offspring, or the Nephilim. Okay, that's easy. These giants were enormous, violent, and cannibalistic, according to First Enoch, for sure, consuming all that men had produced. But what it doesn't say, and I should have included here, and it says when that was exhausted, they started to consume man himself. Okay, that's where cannibalistic comes in. They started eating men and women, I'm sure, and children and everything else. Okay, though Enoch predates the flood, its narrative shapes how post-flood giants like the Anakim were viewed as echoes of rebirth that were of the same corruption. Okay, so let's look at Josephus had a mention of the Anakim. It's found in the Antiquity of the Jews, Book 5, Chapter 2, Verse 3. The first century Jewish historian Flavius Josephus confirms the existence of giants in Canaan. And it says, or he says, there were till then left a race of giants who had bodies so large and countenance so entirely different from other men that they were surprising to the sight. Their bones are still shown this very day. I guess they were put on display somewhere. Let's see. Josephus associates these giants with the sons of Anak, and he places them in Hebron and in the surrounding region. You know, you hear about Hebron and the troubles that the Jewish nation is having with that city, and it's you can see that history just has followed all the way from the ancient days to our current day. The Septuagint and the Greek perspective. Septuagint is the Bible written in Greek. It was transcribed or translated into Greek, and so that so that it would be preserved, obviously, for future generations, not just in the Hebrew, but and for anybody that was Greek that wanted to read it, I'm sure. But it's a pretty good read. You ought to read it. Well, it's like reading the whole Bible through, so you might want to take about 6 months off to do it. But anyway, yeah, it's a good read. Okay, let's see. In the Greek Septuagint translation, the Anakim are often rendered as gigantes, which it was same in the Bible too. The same word used in the Greek mythology for semi-divine giant beings. All right. Giant beings. Okay. This linguistic overlap led some early scholars to identify the Anakim with Greek Titans, implying a shared mythological memory of hybrid divine human beings. Yes, we got the Greeks to thank a lot for a lot of things that they've come up with or had. When we were kids in grade school, we had to read the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. I know it's pretty rough, huh? We were expecting just grade school kids to read it, but it was fascinating. And so we got to read about Ulysses and how he went into after he finished battling in Troy, he got lost. I think a storm blew him off track, and he really got lost and went to some of these weird places. He encountered creatures like the Cyclops. It was a humanoid man with one eye. Medusa with the woman with snakes on her heads, and if a man looked at him, he turned into stone. The centaur and the centaur. One of them's got the body of a human and the body of the head of from the waist up of a human, and the rest of it of a horse, I think. And then another one is similar, but the other half is, I think, donkey, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, when you hear about these things, you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of weird. But when you read about Genesis, and not really so much in Genesis, but Enoch, how they were corrupting animals and stuff with genetic experiments, it's quite interesting. And again, it proves that our current era is just like the days of Noah. And so that's why we expect Yeshua to come back anytime. Let's see. Okay, we read that. Okay, I read that. So let's see the Canaanite and ancient Near East parallels. Okay, in Canaanite lore, certain figures like Baal, El's offspring, and Rephaim were described as giant ancestral spirits who inhabited the underworld and ancient lands. Inhabited the underworld. That's interesting. Another phrase for hell. Okay. Let's see, next point. The Rephaim appeared in Scripture alongside the Anakim, Emim, and Zamzumim as all identified as giant tribes. All right. Excuse me. All identified as giant tribes, descended from their early hybrid. We find that in Deuteronomy 2, verses 10 and 11, and also verses 20 through 21. And let's see. Some scholars believe that these were regional names for clans sharing a common ancestry, like likely interrelated or merged over generations. Let's look at the Anakim after Yehoshua or Joshua. Joshua 11, 20 through 22 records that Joshua defeated the Anakim throughout the land except for Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. These were later Philistine strongholds, and from them came Goliath of Gath and his giant brothers. I think he had 2 other brothers or 3, I can't remember. That's when David picked up rocks. He didn't just pick up one, and he didn't pick up 3 or 4 because he might miss. He was pretty good, but he knew that Goliath had brothers, and he didn't want to take a chance that one of them was going to come springing out and want to fight him, you know. Okay. Let's see. These were later Philistine strongholds, and from them came Goliath of Gath and his brothers. 2 Samuel 21, 16 through 22, implying that the Philistine giants were surviving descendants of the Anakim. Yeah, we've got lots of evidence here, huh, folks? Okay, thus the Anakim bloodline continued through Philistia even after the conquest of Canaan. So let's look at theological interpretations. A symbol of corruption and opposition. Okay, that's what they were. The Anakim symbolized the lingering combination of the fallen watchers' rebellion, a post-flood manifestation of pre-flood corruption. Number 2, genetic versus spiritual lineage. Some traditions view the Anakim as genetic remnants of the Nephilim, while others, like Jubilees, see them as spiritually influenced hybrids, meaning the same demonic forces reappeared through human bloodlines. I don't really see that as happening, because why would they still be giants if that was the case? You know, it doesn't make sense. Okay, number 3, typology. In later Jewish and Christian theology, the Anakim became type or symbol of the worldly powers, demonic influence, or obstacles to faith that God's people must overcome, the giants to be slain in every generation. And boy, do we have them, don't we? So I'm going to do a summary here. So Anak's name means long-necked or giant. The ancestry descended from Arba, possibly linked to Canaan. That's where it gets real interesting. And I think that we get into that here. It's a long thing. I spent a long time on it. Tribal regions were Hebron, Debir, Anab, or southern Canaan. Physical description, very tall, mighty warriors. Biblical appearance, they were found in Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Joshua, and are linked to the Nephilim in Genesis 6:4. Let's see, extra biblical support. The book of Enoch, Jubilees, and Josephus. Later descendants were Goliath and other Philistine giants. Enduring spiritual corruption, obstacles to divine purpose. A full genealogical and tribal tracing of the Anakim bloodline, beginning with Noah's descendants, continuing through Canaan, Arba, Anak, and finally extending to Goliath and the Philistine giants. This chart integrates biblical, apocryphal, and historical sources to reconstruct how the giant lineages may have survived and spread after the flood. Okay. So from Noah to Canaan. Post-flood beginnings. After the flood, Noah's sons repopulated the earth. They were told to do that, and they were faithful to some degree. That was in Genesis 9 and 10. Among them, let's see. So here's the line, folks. You have Noah, right? And then after him, Ham. Now this is direct line, okay? It doesn't have all the brothers and stuff. Then it comes to Canaan, who's the father of the Canaanite peoples, whose descendants inhabited the promised land before Israel arrived. Canaan's line included, okay, here we go. Canaan begot Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, whose wickedness had not been in full. Back when he was talking to Abraham, Yahweh. And the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Arkite, and the Sinite, and the Alverdite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And that's found in Genesis 10, 15 through 18. The Anakim were not listed directly there, but their origin was within Canaan's lineage. Likely connected to the Amorites or the Hittites. I would say definitely the Amorites. The Amorites or the Hittites, as Hebron, their territory, was an ancient Amorite stronghold. Yes, it was. Kiryat Arba. The Canaanite root and giant tribes. Canaan's descendants, including several groups of unusually large in stature. Scripture identifies 4 primary giant types of Canaanite descent. Okay, so we have 4 columns: tribe, region, description or notes, and scriptural reference. Okay, so the Rephaim, their region was Bashan and Transjordan. You ever read about Og-of-Bashan? He was a giant. What was his bed, like 10 or 12 feet long, I think. Let's see. Consider the ancient giants of the. Okay, hold on. Of the land of Og of Bashan. Was there a Bashan? Og-of-Bashan was their king. Let's see. Okay, so that ends that. Okay, the next one is Emim. Their region was Moab. They were feared giants as tall as the Anakim. Let's see, and that's found in Deuteronomy 2:10 through 14. The Zamzumim, their primary region was Ammon, or the Ammonites, a branch of Rephaim destroyed by the Amorites. Okay, the Ammonites, excuse me. That's found in Deuteronomy 2:20 through 21. And then finally the Anakim. They were from or lived in Hebron, south of Canaan, or in South Canaan. They're descendants of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and that's found in Numbers 13:33. Okay, this clan appears to share a common ancestry, possibly rooted in Canaan and mixed with Nephilim or Rephaim bloodlines, either genetically through the preserved DNA or spiritually via demonic influence, as described in Jubilees and Enoch. Okay. You know, folks, I'm going to take a break, and what I'm going to do is I got a couple of videos. I want us to watch one of them, okay? It's about 20 minutes long, but it explains a lot of this lineage, okay? And I don't know, some people are learners by hearing, some people are learners by seeing. And so maybe me reading is taking care of the hearers, but the seers need something else. So I want to show this video. There's 2 videos actually, but this is the longer one, and it's quite interesting. I like the way the guy he narrates, how he enunciates and everything. It's kind of really cool actually. Okay, so let's see. So the first one is called The Story of the Anakim. Okay, here we go.
You may have never heard of the Anakim, a mysterious tribe mentioned in the sacred scriptures, a lineage of giants who, millennia ago, roamed the lands of Canaan and Mesopotamia. These enigmatic beings are cited by ancient commentators and historians, considered one of the most legendary tribes of the ancient Near East, surrounded by myths of power, immense stature, and celestial origin. In this video, we will explore who the Anakim were, their origins, their stories, and the hidden secrets that have survived through the ages. Prepare to dive into one of the most intriguing chapters of ancient history. The name Anak appears several times in the Old Testament, and in some biblical translations, it is rendered as Enoch, although the oldest and most accurate form is Anak. In the Phoenician and archaic Hebrew languages, the word Anak means necklace or ornament for the neck, a symbol of distinction, power, or lineage. However, the roots of this word go much deeper. The term Anak did not originate in Hebrew or Phoenician. It is an echo from an even older tongue. In Sumerian, the tongue of the first civilizations of Mesopotamia, Anak corresponds to the term Anaki, which literally carried the meaning the descendants from above, or those who came from heaven. Over time, this word traveled through the ages, from Sumerian to Akkadian, the language spoken in Ur of the Chaldees, the very birthplace of Abraham, and later to ancient Aramaic, the language of the Israelites, until finally reaching Phoenician Hebrew. Phoenician, in turn, was a northwest Semitic language spoken by a people of sailors and merchants who inhabited the coasts of the Levant, present-day Lebanon, parts of Syria, and Israel. It was this people who created one of the most ancient and influential alphabets of humanity, the foundation of later systems such as Greek and, later on, Latin, which we still use today. Their writing system consisted of 22 consonants, with no explicit vowels, similar to early Hebrew, and it carried the record of one of the most sophisticated civilizations of its time. The meaning of Anak in its most primitive form, both in Sumerian and Akkadian, can be translated as the sons of those who fell from heaven, and thus they are called in the scriptures the sons of Anak. The expression therefore holds the same sense. Descendants of those who descended from heaven, beings whose origins seem to transcend the limits of the human world. During the Israelite conquest of Canaan, one of the most mysterious and grand chapters of the Old Testament, the name Anak emerges from the pages of Scripture as the ancestor of a tribe that seemed to belong to another age. The Anakim, his descendants, were known for their colossal stature, their almost superhuman strength, and for a countenance that, according to the ancients, bore something otherworldly. It was said their eyes reflected the brilliance of the stars, and that their voices, when echoing through the valleys of Canaan, made the ground tremble. These giants, according to sacred accounts, were a distant echo of an age when the divine and the earthly still intertwined, an age before the flood, when celestial beings, called in ancient traditions the Watchers, descended to earth and took human wives, generating a hybrid race of warriors and titans. This forbidden lineage was nearly wiped out by the purified waters of the flood, yet fragments of it survived, and among those remnants were the sons of Anak. Deuteronomy 2:10 mentions that the Anakim were related to the Rephaim, an even older and more mysterious lineage described as a people of great stature and strength, inhabitants of ancient cities such as Bashan and Ashtaroth, regions later associated with Og, king of Bashan, the last of the giants mentioned in Scripture. These beings were so formidable that ordinary warriors trembled at the mere mention of their name. When Moses sent 12 spies to explore the Promised Land, the reports that returned were beyond imagination. 10 of them confessed before the whole assembly that they had seen men of impossible size, beings whose height defied human logic. Some scholars estimate that according to ancient measurements, an Anakite could reach between 13 and 15 feet tall, over 4 meters, and that they wielded spears as large as tree trunks. Their armor was forged from bronze and iron, so heavy that an entire army would be needed to move it. The spies said, "There we saw the descendants of Anak who come from the Nephilim, and we were, in our own sight, as grasshoppers." Fear swept through the camp. The idea of facing creatures who seemed like fallen gods paralyzed the hearts of many Israelites. But Caleb and Joshua, moved by a faith that transcended reason, stood against despair. They did not deny the reality of the giants, but affirmed that with the God of Israel, even the highest mountains could be brought down. "The Lord is with us," said Caleb. "Do not be afraid of them." That phrase would become legendary, the memory of a moment when faith faced the impossible. From then on, the Anakim came to represent, for the Hebrews, more than mere enemies. They became the living symbol of the forces that defy divine purpose, the lingering shadows of the ancient celestial rebellion that still echoed upon the earth. In the books of Deuteronomy, Joshua, and Judges, the Anakim reappear as remnants of an earlier age, survivors of a time when the earth still bore the scars of the intervention of the sons of God. Their cities were said to be fortified with colossal stones, their thrones carved from blocks so massive that even modern archaeologists struggle to comprehend how they were built. Among the heroes who faced these beings was Caleb once more. Years later, now an old man yet still full of vigor, he returned to Hebron, the land where he had first seen the giants. Before him stood the three legendary chiefs of the Anakim, Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmai, sons of Anak. Caleb fought with the same youthful fire that had once driven him, and according to tradition, he defeated all three in battle, reclaiming the very land that had once filled him with terror. That region was known for an ancient city called Kiriath Arba, named after Arba, the greatest of the Anakim, a giant whose height, according to old rabbinic texts, exceeded the stature of 7 men standing one upon another. Hebron, the new name given to the city after its conquest, became one of the holiest places in Israel, an eternal reminder that faith triumphed over fear, and that the giants who once ruled the land were defeated by divine promise. But the echoes of that race did not fade easily. Ancient writings, forgotten fragments, and oral traditions preserved across various cultures, Sumerian, Canaanite, Egyptian, and Hebrew, tell of similar beings, colossal men of immense strength, sometimes revered as gods, other times feared as monsters. Some accounts claim that when their bodies fell in battle, the earth itself trembled, and that their bones were so large they were used as markers along ancient roads. As the centuries passed, modern scholars tried to reinterpret these stories, suggesting that the giants were merely metaphors for powerful nations or dynasties. Yet the original texts, written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and ancient Greek, preserve nuances that point toward a darker origin. In them, the words Nephilim and Rephaim appear in distinct contexts, referring to beings not entirely human, descendants of a union between the celestial and the earthly, the offspring of the Watchers who corrupt God's creation. This interpretation finds support in the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered between 1947 and 1956 in the caves of Qumran. These scrolls, dating from 250 BC to 68 AD, are an invaluable archaeological treasure. Among them are nearly complete copies of the Old Testament, along with apocryphal and mystical writings that speak explicitly of a time when angels descended to earth and taught humankind forbidden arts, metallurgy, enchantments, and warfare. In one fragment known as the Book of Giants, found among the Qumran scrolls, there is mention of the hybrid offspring of the Watchers who devoured all the works of men, whose wickedness provoked divine wrath and led to the Great Flood. These passages reinforce the idea that the Anakim and the Nephilim were survivors of that ancient epoch, living remnants of celestial transgression. Most of the scrolls are written in Hebrew, some in Aramaic, and others in Greek, revealing the details of an ancient faith that believed heaven and earth had once touched, with catastrophic consequences. Among the worn lines of these sacred texts echoes the memory of hybrid beings, warriors, and ancient kings, the giants of Canaan, whose bones time has swallowed, but whose memory still resonates like distant thunder, coming from an era when giants walked among men. Thus, across the oldest writings and traditions preserved by the civilizations of the Near East, runs a common thread spanning the centuries. The conviction that the giants, including the Anakim, were direct descendants of the fallen angels, the watchers of ancient lore. These celestial beings allegedly transgressed the boundaries of heaven, seducing the daughters of men and giving rise to a hybrid race, endowed with superhuman power, wisdom and strength, but corrupted by a rebellious nature. These hybrids were described as beings of immense size, whose presence dominated the plains of Canaan, the hills of Bashan, and the fortresses of the ancient city-states. It was said that their skin reflected the gleam of bronze in the sun, that their footsteps made the ground tremble, and that their voices had the weight of distant thunder. The peoples of the region saw them as children of heaven and earth, half angels and half men, the last remnants of a time when the gods walked among mortals. Even in the face of this convergence of ancient sources, biblical, Jewish, Sumerian and Egyptian, many modern scholars have attempted to reinterpret these narratives, reducing them to legends, metaphors, or poetic exaggerations. They claim that the giants were merely warriors of great stature, tribal chiefs who, over generations, were transformed into myths. But the testimonies of antiquity, inscribed in stone, clay, and parchment, tell another story, a story of fear, power, and forbidden memories. Among the most impressive pieces of evidence are the Egyptian execration texts, dating from the Middle Kingdom period, circa 2055 BC to 1650 BC. These artifacts were used in cursing rituals. The names of enemies of foreign kingdoms were inscribed on clay figurines and jars, which were then ritually broken, symbolizing the destruction of the enemy before the gods. In some of these lists, references appear to peoples of ancient Canaan, and among them one name stands out, Ionic, a term that many Egyptologists associate with the expression people of Anak. This discovery is extraordinary, as it shows that the fame of the Anakim extended beyond the borders of Canaan and was known even in the courts of the pharaohs, thousands of kilometers to the south. The Egyptians feared these tribes, describing them as people of immense stature and indomitable strength, servants of foreign deities whom the pharaohs sought to curse in order to preserve the balance of the cosmos. In certain fragments of these texts, the names of three rulers of the Anakim appear: Jiram, Abamu, and Ayam, names that intrigue historians. Some believe that these were ancestors of the biblical chiefs Sesai, Iman, and Talmai, mentioned in the book of Joshua. Others suggest that they may have been kings of the first generation of giants, perhaps older brothers of those who faced the Israelites centuries later. According to ancient Hebrew traditions, the Anakim lived much longer than ordinary men, reaching hundreds of years, which would explain how their names and deeds became living legends. The writer and mythologist Robert Graves, in his analyses of the mythological origins of Mediterranean civilizations, explored this connection between East and West. He observed that the term Anak might be related to the Greek word anax, meaning Lord, King, or Sovereign God, a title used for giant kings and primordial deities in archaic Greece. Thus, it is possible that the echo of the name Anak crossed the boundaries of time and culture, appearing in various languages to designate the rulers of a titanic age that preceded recorded human history. Graves went further. He proposed that the Anakim could correspond to the Anakoiroi of Hellenic tradition, divine kings or titans who ruled during the Golden Age, when gods and giants walked side by side upon the earth. These ancient kings were not merely powerful humans, but living symbols of the union between the sacred and the profane, beings whose existence marked the point of rupture between our world and the spiritual world. What is most fascinating and terrifying about the traditions concerning the Anakim is the description of their incomprehensible stature and strength. Hebrew chronicles, Ugaritic texts, and apocryphal writings describe them as men 4 to 5 meters tall, capable of lifting stones that hundreds of ordinary men could not move. Some texts speak of swords the size of palm trees, shields heavier than entire oxen, and a near invincible resilience. It was said that a single strike from an Anakite could shatter the bronze shield of an Israelite warrior. Even the smaller among them, according to estimates by archaeologists and scholars like Graves, stood over 3 meters tall. Their bones, if ever found, might easily be mistaken for those of prehistoric beasts. Their walls and fortresses, such as those of Hebron and Bashan, were built with stone blocks that defy the known construction techniques of their era. Some rabbinic accounts describe how, when the Israelites approached the Promised Land, they saw the Anakim from afar, training with enormous stones and leaping from hill to hill, as though the weight of the earth could not hold them down. Their bodies, it is said, were not like those of men, denser, stronger, and with a strange radiance in their eyes, a lingering trace of the celestial light inherited from the Watchers. Thus, whether in Hebrew scriptures, Greek myths, or Egyptian curses, the image of the Anakim remains consistent. Kings of flesh and stone, descendants of a corrupted celestial lineage whose memory still haunts the world today. Their stories are remnants of an age when the divine and the earthly collided violently, leaving behind only ruins, bones, and echoes of a lost glory. But it was not only their size that set them apart. Graves described the Anakim as beings endowed with tremendous strength and astonishing speed, capable of rapid movements and devastating blows even while wearing heavy armor and wielding massive weapons. Their endurance too was legendary. The author mentions that some, such as Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, were grievously wounded in battle, brought to the brink of death, and yet survived. Those same names appear in scripture, in the books of Joshua and Judges, described as surviving warriors who, though struck down, continued to be feared by all who lived around them. Beyond the biblical accounts, testimonies from many cultures reinforce the presence of these giants. The Egyptian execration texts, already mentioned, include direct references to the tribe of the Anakim. Echoes of their existence also appear in Phoenician and Aramaic inscriptions, which speak of colossal beings from time immemorial, and even in the Quran, where there are mentions of giant nations destroyed by divine judgment. These convergences between Egyptian, Semitic, biblical, and Islamic traditions seem to point to the same ancestral memory, that of a race of giant men, sons of those who fell from heaven, whose presence profoundly marked the consciousness of ancient civilizations. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, one of the most respected chroniclers of the 1st century, also made extensive references to the existence of ancient giants in his works, describing not only the Anakim, but several other colossal tribes that inhabited the earth in the earliest times. With the keen eye of both historian and guardian of Hebrew tradition, Josephus recounts in detail the astonishing appearance of these beings. He writes, "For this reason they removed their camp to Hebron, and when they took it, they slew all the inhabitants. Until then, there remained a race of giants there, whose bodies were so large and their countenances so unlike to other men's, that they were surprising to the sight and terrible to the hearing." This vivid, almost cinematic description reveals how the giants were seen with a mixture of fear and awe, regarded not merely as enormous in stature, but strange in form and presence, as though belonging to another order of beings altogether. Josephus also records that, in his own time, the bones of these giants could still be seen, displayed as relics in certain regions, a direct testimony to their existence. Unlike ordinary human remains, these gigantic bones showed abnormal proportions, reinforcing the idea that they were not simply tall men, but members of a distinct, perhaps even hybrid lineage, one whose origins traced back to that forbidden union between heaven and earth. As the centuries passed, it appears that the tribe of the Anakim was eventually annihilated, destroyed by the Israelites and other neighboring peoples during the wars of conquest. Despite their strength and size, they were overcome by human persistence and faith. Few survived, and among those remnants, legends and myths were born. Some were said to have been revered as demigods, others hired as warriors or mercenaries, and among them rose a name that would echo forever through the scriptures, Goliath, the Philistine giant defeated by the young David. Others, less remembered, vanished into the mists of history, hunted, destroyed, and forgotten. Yet their traces remain in the pages of the Bible, in ancient accounts, in lost inscriptions, and in stories that span millennia. They are fragments of a memory that refuses to fade, a reminder that, in some distant age, giants truly walked among men. If you wish to delve deeper into this mystery, to understand its origins, its connection to the fallen angels, and its presence in biblical, apocryphal, and archaeological texts, leave your request in the comments. There is much more to be revealed about the giants of Scripture and the legacy they left behind. May God bless you, and I'll see you soon.
Well, there you have it, folks. I got an offer an apology, folks. For the first 15 minutes or so of that video, you probably heard a bunch of echoing, and it's because I had it on the speakers here and not on here. And I don't know. I apologize. It was stupid, and but it's something I did. And anyway, let's move on. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Where do we go from here? Okay. All right. I'm going to finish, I think, reading, and then I have a last video. And the last video is similar to this video, except it explains maybe a couple different nuances that are different, and there will be no echoing. Oh my goodness. You know, folks, in my own defense, you know, it's putting something like this together. A lot of guys have producers. You know, either their wives are producing the show, or their friends are producing it, or they have professional producers doing it. I don't. I do everything myself, and sometimes things get forgotten, you know. So anyway, there we go. I don't think I need to explain anymore, and everything should be cool. Okay, so let's get back to where we were here. Okay. I think I read that. Okay. So let's see, the line of Arba and Anak. Within this broader Canaanite network, Anakim, trace specific through Arba. And we have a genealogical line simplified. Picture yourself a little bit of a tree. It kind of goes like this. So you got father, son, then begat this person, then begat this person, okay? And that's what I'm reading from here. So you had Noah, right? His son was Ham. Ham gave birth to a bunch of children, but the one we're kind of interested in today is Canaan. Canaan gave birth to Arba, the greatest man among the Anakim, who gave birth to Anak, okay, which means long-necked or father of giants, who gave birth to 3 sons, Sheshai, Ahaman, and Talmai. Okay. It says Arba founded Kiriath Arba, later renamed Hebron, and that was Joshua renamed that. And you see that in Joshua 14:15. His name Arba equals the number 4 in Hebrew. Arba, yeah. It might indicate 4 tribal divisions or sons, or symbolize his mighty stature. Anak, his son or descendant, gave rise to the Anakim, meaning the sons of Anak. Now, a lot of this stuff we're going over again, I know, but I think that's good. I think it helps to burn it into our brains somehow. See, Anak's 3 sons, Sheshai, Ahaman, and Talmai, were the ones seen by the Israelite spies in Numbers 13:22. All right, survival of the Anakim bloodline. After Joshua's conquest, that was found in Joshua. Actually, this specific point here is found in Joshua 11, verses 21 and 22. It says, Joshua cut off the Anakim from the hill country. None of the Anakim were left in the land of the children of Israel. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did some remain. The verse is crucial because it shows that remnants of the Anakim survived in the Philistine cities. Philistine giants, descendants of the Anakim. From these surviving enclaves came the Rephaim, like the Philistine warriors, including Goliath and his brothers. genealogical continuation. Okay, so Anak, here we go again with another tree. Started the Anakim survivors. Let's see, in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. The Gathite giants of the Philistine clan included Goliath of Gath, Ishbi Benob. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Ishbi Benob, Saph or Sippai, Lathmi, who is Goliath's brother, and another individual called the six-fingered man of Gath. By the way, most Nephilim had 6 fingers and 6 toes and 2 rows of teeth, too, if you didn't know that already. So we got references we hear at 1 Samuel 17:4. Goliath described as 6 cubits and a span, which is 9 foot 9 inches long, or tall. Real quick, folks, before we go any further, a typical cubit went from the tip of the middle finger down to the end of the elbow. Okay, and believe it or not, in my hand, that's 18 inches. Okay, and that's what that's that measurement. Okay, 18 inches. Okay, now a span goes from here to here, and guess how many inches that is? 9. Weird, huh? That's how they used to measure everything, and usually the measurement went by the ruler who was ruling that day or that time, and it almost is always 18 inches on the cubit. Okay, now there were different cubits. There was an Egyptian cubit, there was a royal cubit and stuff. I think one of them was as long as 25 inches or something like that, but the typical cubit was 18 inches long, or thereabouts. Okay, good. I like when I can impart information like that. Okay, again, let's see. 2 Samuel 21, 16 through 22, and 1 Chronicles 24 through 8 lists Goliath's 4 relatives, all giants of Gath, slain by David and his warriors. The text says these were born to the giant in Gath, and they fell before the hand of David. The Hebrew from giant here is Harapha, linking them directly to the Rephaim, showing interconnection between the Anakim and the Rephaim lines. All right, now we got a combined ancestral map. It is condensed. I don't know about condensing. It doesn't look condensed to me, but anyway. So the pre-flood, you had the Watchers, which were fallen angels, and the human women, which are Nephilim. Post-flood, okay, we go to Noah, and then his son Ham, and then his son Canaan, and then from Canaan we got the Rephaim, the Emim, then Zamzumim, and Arba in Hebron, and his son Anak, and his sons Sheshai, Hyman, and Talmai. You know, folks, I'm gonna take this document, and I've got an account that's linked to the YouTube account, and I'm gonna put it on there, and it's got all stuff like this. There's a paid section and a free section, but I'll determine later on where this is going. It's probably going to go in the free section because it's important, and you shouldn't have to pay for important stuff, right? So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that, and let's see. All right. Survivors in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod, and Goliath and his brothers. Okay. Historical interpretations. Okay. Now, the first one is the Jewish Midrash and the Talmud traditions. Now, I don't read the Talmud, and I don't read the Midrash, okay? These are just for reference purposes, okay? Now, some Midrashim say Og-of-Bashan survived the flood by clinging to Noah's Ark. There we go. Which explains the continuation of the giant genetics post-deluge. Which is dumb because... it's dumb because how could he make all the... it took a fallen angel and a human woman to make a giant, right? There's no really... When you read scripture and stuff, you don't read anything about the giants reproducing. And as far as I can tell, Unless you look at Arba and stuff, and then his sons and his son and then his grandsons. Yes, they did, I guess, but I don't know. I think that it would take more of like a giant, a human woman and an angelic to make a clean Nephilim or a clean son of Arba, an Anakim. Okay. Anyway, that's just a thought. Let's see. Okay, though figurative, it captures the ancient belief that some of the old bloodline persisted. I still think it was a second incursion, folks. I can't. All this stuff is fanciful. It's all clinging to the side of an ark for. It rained for and fountains of the deep rope for 150 days, folks. How can you cling to the side of the ark? And if no one knew you were there, why didn't we do something to try to kind of push you off, or throw something at you to make you fall off? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. It's foolishness as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Josephus' account. As noted, Josephus confirmed both Anakim and Rephaim bones still displayed to his day, maintaining continuity between these tribes. Now, theological symbolism, look at that. In Jewish and Christian theology, the giant clans became symbols of spiritual rebellion and ancestral corruption and humanity's struggle against fallen powers. Not merely historical enemies, but enduring archetypes. Yeah, it's true, but there's in all archetypes there's a true story. Okay, so let's do a summary here again. So you have four columns. One is stage, one is figures or tribes, one is key religion or region, and the other one's relations. So if we go to, I'm going to do something to make it a little easier for myself. Hold on a second. I'm going to make this, if I can, make this table a little. Okay, there we go. It's a miracle. Okay. So anyway, pre-flood, you had the Nephilim. Their key region was global, the whole earth. Okay. The origin of a hybrid bloodline. That was the relation. Post-flood, you had Canaan, the person Canaan. And then the key region was Levant. And Levant means, basically, it's a region that consists of Syria, Lebanon, and Israel. Okay, Jordan sometimes is thrown into the Levant, but if you ever do an ancestry check on yourself, sometimes it'll say Levant, and that means that you have some ancestor that came from that part of the world. Okay, either Syria, Lebanon, or Israel. Okay, so next row. Let's see. Early giants: the Rephaim, the Emim, and the Zamzumim. Their key region was east and south of Canaan, and they were cousin tribes of the Anakim. All right. Next row: Canaanite giants. Figure of tribes: Rephaim, Emim, and Zamzumim. Wait a minute. I got to go down. Canaanite giants, Arba, Anak, and Anakim. Their key region was Hebron, or that area. And the relation, the sons of Anak, Numbers 13. Okay, survivors, the Anakim remnant. Okay, they fled or went to Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. And the relations, refuge among the Philistines. And the Philistine giants, let's see, Goliath and his kin, their key region was Gath, and the final known relation, final known descendants. Okay, so what happened between Noah and Canaan? Now this is a little freaky. Okay, a little. It's like saying I don't know. It's like understatement. It's like an understatement. Okay. What's that between Noah and Canaan? Okay, the biblical story. Okay, Genesis 9:20-27 says Noah began to be a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. Then he drank the wine and became drunk, and he was uncovered within his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brothers what he saw. What saw his father's nakedness. Oh, What does saw his father's nakedness might mean? This phrase is key, and there are three main interpretations, okay? So the literal view, or disrespect or exposure. Ham saw his father naked and dishonored him by gossiping instead of covering him. This view sees the sin as disrespectful mockery of Noah's vulnerability. The curse on Canaan then serves as prophetic consequences, not punishment, foreshadowing the corruption of Canaan's descendants who would later fall into depravity, Genesis 15:16 and Leviticus 18. Let's see. Now the second is the ancestral view, sexual act with Noah's wife. This is the bizarre part. It all is, but this is more bizarre than bizarre. In Leviticus 18:7-8, to uncover the nakedness of your father means to sleep with your father's wife. So, under this interpretation, Ham had relations with his mother, Noah's wife, producing Canaan as the offspring of incest. Okay, that's why Noah cursed Canaan, the child born from the act. This explains the phrasing Ham, the father of Canaan, repeated twice, emphasizing the connection between the act and Canaan's birth. A third one, castration view, violence against Noah. Some ancient rabbis, and here we go with the Talmud and stuff again. Some ancient rabbis in the Talmud, Sanhedrin 70a, suggest Ham castrated Noah, preventing further offspring, and Canaan was cursed as a result of Ham's violation of the family order. Folks, do you think that if that had been the case, that all the sons would have done is gone in and walked in backwards with a blanket and placed it over his father? No. That would have been a medical emergency. It's like, that's not what you do in a medical emergency, unless you want the patient to die. Okay, so anyway, while less likely, this interpretation highlights a power struggle and moral inversion, Ham trying to assert dominance over the patriarchal line. Okay, the result, the Canaanite line. Regardless of which interpretation is correct, the outcome is consistent. Canaan and his descendants became cursed, meaning set apart for divine judgment. Canaan's descendants later include the Sidonians. Sidon is in Greece. Is in Lebanon. The Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Archites, the Sinites, the Arvadites, the Zemarites, the Hamathites, and that's it. These tribes populated Canaan, the Promised Land, and were known for idolatry, sexual corruption, and hybrid practices, echoing the pre-flood sins of the Nephilim. See? It all goes back to that, folks. Everything that's in, let's say, in the law, in the Torah, all the things that you should or should not do are things that are, the things that you shouldn't do are all things that were happening before the flood, which is why Yahweh knows the way that humans falter and what causes them to falter, and that's why he made the law. And by the way, the law means instruction. Torah means instruction, not the law. It's an instruction on how to live life and live it successfully, and without sin and with righteousness. But so that being said, everything that happens, and still does happen nowadays, is as a result of a repeat of what happened before the flood. In Ecclesiastes chapter 1, I can't remember the verse, it says there's nothing new under the sun. It says that the things that have happened before. I'm paraphrasing here. And basically that there's nothing that you can do to change it. but that's said to, was it George Santayana said, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. So study your history, folks. Study it hard and study it good. And maybe you won't make the mistakes that others made, and or continue to make the mistakes that you're making now. Okay. These tribes populated Canaan, the Promised Land. Okay, I read that part. They were known for idolatry, sexual corruption, and hybrid practices, echoing pre-flood sins of the Nephilim. Okay, it is within the context that Arba and the Anakim appear Canaan's descendants whose bloodlines carried both physical corruption and spiritual rebellion. Okay, the theological undercurrent is Noah's righteousness symbolized preservation, of the pure line of after the flood. Ham's act represented reintroducing corruption and rebellion into humanity's new beginning. Canaan's curse manifests generations later when Israel enters Canaan and faces the giant tribes, the Anakim, the Rephaim, etc., as if the ancient defilement had resurfaced. In other words, what happened between Noah and Canaan may mark the moment where post-flood humanity's purity was breached, spiritually, genetically, or both, setting the stage for a reappearance of the Nephilim-type beings, hence the sons of Arba. So, let's see. Okay, yeah, we can go into this. I think. Hold on, folks. You know what? We've been on the air for an hour and 40 minutes, so this is what I said I was going to read if we had time, and I'm going to save this for another time. Maybe we can do this next week or something. But I'll make sure I work it in. But it just goes to show about how there's no way that there's a relationship between Anak, Anakim, and the Anunnaki. Okay, Stitchin's famous bastard child that he turned into a novel, and there's no relation to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this, like I said, on I wish I could remember that site, but it's a site that goes along. Basically, you can join it and all the things that I want to post on there for you to have can be there. And it's because I can't right now have a feature where you guys can join, because I have to have at least 1,000 followers. That's on YouTube. That's pretty tough and stringent, you know. But anyway, I want to just finish up. Let's watch that last video, okay? I think it's only about 10 minutes long, and that'd be a nice way to kind of ease out of this, and then we can talk a little bit, and then that'll be it, okay? All right, again, this time you'll not hear an echo, okay? Oh, man, what I'm going to do, folks, I swear, for you and for my sake, is I'm going to make a checklist of things to do as I go along, and then I'll follow that, and then things like that won't happen, okay? Sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to turn it into a process instead of a memory. Okay. All right. Let's. This is called Tribe of the Nephilim. Tribe of the Nephilim. Okay. It's short. Anyway, here we go.
Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. You've probably never heard of the Anakim, a tribe mentioned in the Bible. The Anakim were giants who, in ancient times, roamed the lands of Canaan and Mesopotamia. Ancient commentators and historians mention these giants, with the Anakim being one of the most famous tribes of the ancient Middle East. In this video, I'll talk about this tribe and reveal many unknown things about these ancient monsters. That being said, enjoy this content from the channel. The tribe of the Anakim, the giants, sons of those who fell from heaven. The term Anak appears a few times in the Old Testament, and its etymology is described in some Bible versions as Anak, but the original is Anak. In Phoenician Hebrew, Anak means necklace or simply necklace for the neck. However, the term Anak is not originally Phoenician Hebrew, but rather a loan from an older language, Sumerian. In Sumerian language, Anak corresponds to the term Anunnaki. This loan passed from Sumerian to Akkadian, the language spoken in Ur of the Chaldeans by Abraham, and later to ancient Aramaic, spoken by the Israelites, until it reached Phoenician Hebrew. Phoenician was a northwest Semitic language spoken by the Phoenicians, a maritime and mercantile people who inhabited the Levant region, corresponding to present-day Lebanon, parts of Syria, and Israel. Phoenician is particularly famous for its alphabet, one of the oldest, which influenced the development of several other alphabets, including Greek and, by extension, the Latin alphabet used today. Phoenician used a consonantal writing system, or al-Shari, composed of 22 consonants and no explicit vowels, similar to ancient Hebrew. The meaning of Anak in Sumerian and Akkadian is literally, sons of those who fell from the sky, or, as it appears in the Bible, sons of Anak. The translation of the tribe known as sons of Anak is exactly that, sons of those who fell from the sky or descended. In the conquest of Canaan by the Israelites, as reported in the Book of Numbers, Anak is mentioned as the ancestor of the Anakim, or simply as the name given to this tribe. According to Deuteronomy 2 verse 11, the Anakim were a tribe akin to the ancient Rephaim. 10 of the 12 Israelite spies described the descendants of Anak as extremely tall, referring to them as giants. They associated these descendants with the ancient Nephilim, described in Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4. The association between the Anakim and the Nephilim is so strong that in the Book of Numbers, the Anakim are mentioned as being Nephilim. The first reference to the tribe of giant Anakim is found in Numbers 13. Moses, the Israelite leader, sends 12 spies representing the 12 tribes of Israel to explore the land of Canaan. The spies enter through the Negev desert and travel northward, through the hills of Judea, until they reach the valley of Eshcol near Hebron, where the sons of Anak dwell. At that time, the rulers of the Anakim were Sisai, Ahiman, and Talmai. After exploring the entire land, the spies bring back some samples of the land's fruits. They report to Moses and the congregation of Israel that the land truly flows with milk and honey, abundant with fruits and vegetation. However, in Numbers 13:33, 10 of the 12 spies assert that the inhabitants of the land are descendants of the ancient Nephilim, discouraging the Israelites from even attempting to possess the land. They report that these men were taller and stronger than the Israelites, who felt like grasshoppers in comparison. However, faithful spies Caleb and Joshua did not oppose them, affirming that they did indeed see this, but they did not fear the tribe of giants. The Anakim are also briefly mentioned in the books of Deuteronomy, Joshua, and Judges. Caleb, one of the 12 spies sent by Moses to Canaan, later drove out the descendants of Anak, specifically their three main descendants, the rulers of Hebron, Sisai, Ahiman, and Talmai. Additionally, there is the so-called Kiriath Arba, named after an ancient giant who lived in that region, known only as Arba. Many people have the desire to discredit biblical stories, especially those of the giants. Some go as far as to claim that they were not offspring of the fallen angels. However, both the original texts and the English translations indicate that they were descendants of the fallen angels. The oldest interpretations confirm this, including the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of ancient documents discovered between 1947 and 1956 in various caves near the Dead Sea, at Qumran, Israel. These manuscripts are one of the most important archaeological discoveries of the 20th century and hold great historical and religious significance. The discovery includes religious texts, copies of books from the Hebrew Bible's Old Testament, apocryphal writings, sectarian texts, and communal documents. Most manuscripts are in Hebrew, with some in Aramaic and Greek. The manuscripts date from around 250 BCE to 68 CE, making them some of the oldest known written documents of the Hebrew Bible. They include copies of nearly all the books of the Old Testament, except for the Book of Esther, as well as apocryphal and sectarian texts that provide insights into the religious and cultural life of Jewish communities at the time. Therefore, there is a consensus that the giants were descendants of the fallen angels, or demons. Many people attempt to discredit these giants and particularly the tribes of giants, dismissing them as mere mythical beings and asserting that the Bible referred only to tall men, not actual giants. However, some Egyptian execration texts from the Middle Kingdom period, dating from 2055 BCE to 1650 BCE, mention various lists of political enemies in Canaan, among which is a group known in the Egyptian version as Lineage, or the people of Anak. Many believe that the Anakim were known only in Mesopotamia by the Sumerians and Akkadians, due to the term Anak deriving from Sumerian Anak. However, the Egyptian execration texts from the Middle Kingdom historically mention the Lie Anak, the people of Anak, and even cite their three main rulers, Hiram, Abiyamamu, and Achiram, who were the royal leaders of the Anakim. Interestingly, in biblical texts, we find 3 other rulers of the ancient Anakim, Sasai, Ahiman, and Talmai, often mentioned as giants and their leaders. The leaders mentioned in Egyptian texts could be their predecessors or at least their elder brothers, as they lived much longer than normal humans. Robert Graves explores the connection between the Anakim and the Philistines, identifying the Anakim with an ancient Greek term, Anaks, Anak, Anaks. He argues that the giants not only ruled but were literally giants among the Anactorians of Greek mythology. A point of great interest is the height of the Anakim giants, a topic that fascinates many when discussing these figures. According to Graves, the Anakim, who were brothers of the Rephaim tribe known for their biblical dimensions of approximately 13 to 16 feet, or possibly more, were at least 10 feet tall each, perhaps even taller, from 11.5 to 13 feet. This impressive stature not only distinguished them for their height but also for their strength and speed. Graves recounts that Anakim like Ahiman, Sasai, and Talmai were severely wounded in battle, nearing death, yet managed to survive. In other words, the Anakim Sasai, Ahiman, and Talmai are mentioned in the books of Joshua and Judges as fighters who suffered serious injuries. In addition to ancient Egyptian execration texts that mention the tribe of the Anakim, there are also references in the Bible, the Quran, and ancient Levantine inscriptions describing these giants and monsters. Flavius Josephus, the famous writer and historian, also makes several references to ancient giants in his writings, addressing not only the Anakim but other tribes of giants as well. He describes the appearance of the giants as follows. For this reason, they removed their camp to Hebron, and when they had taken it, they slew all the inhabitants. There were till then left the race of giants, who had bodies so large, and countenances so entirely different from other men, that they were surprising to the sight, and terrible to the hearing. These historical and literary sources offer a fascinating insight into the presence and perception of giants in antiquity. Moreover, Josephus reports that the bones of these men were still displayed until his time. Unlike other credible accounts of men, the bones of the ancient Anakim were preserved, suggesting a notable distinction from others. Probably, the tribe of the ancient Anakim was completely destroyed by the Israelites and other peoples of the region. Despite their imposing stature and strength, they were outnumbered and hunted to extinction. Some were even worshipped or used as mercenaries, like Goliath, while others were simply defeated. If you want to learn more about topics like this, just request in the comments. We have a series of videos exploring giants in scripture, if you're interested. May God bless you and see you soon.
May God bless you and see you soon. That almost makes it sound like he wants you to die. I think he meant to say, God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Okay? I'm just trying to help out here, guys. If that's not what you meant, get a hold of me and then we'll talk. Oh, folks, what a day it's been. But it's been a good day because I got to spend 2 hours with you guys. And I just want to thank you for being a good audience, man. You guys are incredible. You're great listeners. You're just really nice people. And that's what I always hope for, to have an audience of nice people. Yes, we may disagree on some things, but hey, don't we all? I mean, even the person you're closest to, you disagree on at least one thing with them, right? Whatever that thing may be. So, anyway, I'm going to get going, folks, and get ready for Monday's show. I don't know what that's going to be, or I would tell you. Anyway, again, I apologize for the faux pas earlier. You had to suffer through about 15 minutes of echoing, and I apologize for that. I mean, that would drive me nuts. And if you stayed even after that, that's even more evidence that you're a wonderful character and very forgiving person. So, okay, folks, I'm going to get out of here. Have a great weekend, okay? Be blessed, and may Yahweh just give you something this weekend that you've wanted for a long time. And I'm talking about peace and contentment, or maybe he gives you knowledge about something you wanted to know about, or explain something in Scripture to you that you've always wondered about. It just hasn't clicked. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound like something he would do. For instance, for the longest time, and I'll end it with this. For the longest time, I wondered how Yahweh could tell the children of Israel to go into a certain town or city in Canaan and kill every man, woman, child, and animal in that city. I was like, man, that's not cool. That's not something that a God of love would do. But then I started researching, like I have, about the Nephilim and about Arba and the Anak, Anakim, and I realized that these were things that the enemy had put in the path to try to trip Yahweh up, so that if he could corrupt the seed of Mashiach, then Mashiach couldn't be born. Mashiach couldn't have come and died for our sins, because he wouldn't be totally human, right? So, although what they did and what he ordered them to do sounds kind of barbaric, it was necessary. And when you think about it, he wasn't really killing human beings anyway. He was killing hybrids, half-breeds, and people that would have been inherently posed or prone to evil, more than you and I. And so, anyway, if that helps you to understand it, then that's wonderful. I know it is a little difficult to understand, but anyway, we'll go with that. So, folks, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he make his face to rise upon you and be gracious unto you. May he watch your going out and your coming in. May he watch you rising up and your lying down. May he give you the peace that passes all understanding. Peace, peace, wonderful peace. And we need that in this day when we have so much trouble going on around us. We just need a peace to know that he's involved. And well, anyway, in Yeshua's name, amen. But we need a peace to know that he's involved, that he is active in the affairs of man, even this day. And as the days grow closer to the return of Yeshua HaMashiach, we know that things are going to get bad, but we are also going to have to know even more that he's close to us, that he's with us. So, and that'll happen. Okay? Well, I'm going to get out of here, folks. Yahweh bless you. I'm sorry nobody got into the chat. That seems to be a habit, and hopefully it'll break someday. But, yeah, so, folks, anyway, again, have a wonderful weekend, and just be blessed in Yeshua's name. Okay? All right. Love you guys. See you Tuesday.